Well, as far as I know, it started with Bottle Hollow. It was called Bull Run, and the tribe more or less was using it for river running and camping and people coming down in here and bighorn sheep hunts, and I think maybe some elk hunts. It was just a kind of a little staging area. They had non-tribal members. They would have a kind of a lottery, and they would pick out of that lottery. So that's basically what I know about it.
And what time of year would they come down to hunt?
In the fall. In the fall, they just kept the road open for it, and they would venture out, south of here, back up in the Florence Creek and Chandler, back here along the river. Mm-hmm. So it was a pretty good little hunt that they had.
And when did your parents start working here, or running this operation?
It was in the mid-50s or mid-80s. Mid-80s, and at that time they didn't know that the whitewater rafting came with it, boats and all that. So they found someone to help them do that. So they got started in it. Thomas and Clarisse Chapoose.
And your father is dead, but your mother's alive?
Yes.
And so how old were you when you worked down here, and what kind of memories do you have of this place?
Well, we were just kids. We rode in the back of the truck and, got all dusted out and everything. But, it was, I don't remember what years it was. It was before high school, junior high, high school.
Talk about driving down here.
Well, from Fort Duchesne, it takes 4 hours. It takes 4 hours, and from my home, it's 119 miles. And it's, well, this last stretch is about 7 miles, and it takes 45 minutes.
So talk a little bit about that last stretch of road.
Well, there's a lot of crossings, a lot of washouts. When it rains down here, it really rains. And, the water all turns red. The river turns completely red when it rains down here. So it's an experience just coming from Chandler to here, and hoping that there's no big rocks in the road.
So how long would your parents be here during a summer? How many months?
Maybe 3 months. About 3 months, I'd say.
And so would you and all your siblings be down here with your parents?
Yes, my three kids would come down. They probably run the river more than I have. And they started when they were, I think my son was 3, my daughter was probably 5, and the youngest one was just around 2.
But all your siblings, when you came down here as a young boy, they'd all be down here, all your brothers and sisters?
Not really. Not really. It was the older ones, my older sisters. They would come down with them and help, take care of the place and get things up and running. Plus they had a lot of help. A lot of people had never been down here. And I think it's still the same way. Not very many people's ever been down in here.
So there'd be other tribal members, friends of your parents, who would come down here and help?
Yes. This is a nice place though. It's hot in the summer, but there's plenty of things to do. There's a lot of sites around here. There's a orchard that's right back over here, and they got some of that going. They had lawn out in the front. The spring is just right over here, so they was able to pipe everything down. So it turned out to be a real nice little place to stay during the summer.
When your parents were running it, would river runners stop here?
Yes, they had some meals for them. They had, if they booked it early enough, they had some meals. They'd stay here overnight or maybe 2 nights. And, they had sodas, pop, ice, and different things, odds and ends, little trinkets, for the tourists.
About how many years did your parents run this?
I'm not really sure. They were here when I got started it in '95. I'd say they probably had it maybe 10 years, around 10 years. And I took over on it when my mom and dad got a little too old to, make that long dusty trip down here. So I took it over for a while, but it just got too overwhelming.
How many years did you run it here?
About 4 years. I kept things going. They kept coming down too, but I more or less took over the river company, started running the river.
So you were running this and running river trips?
Yes. And it got hectic. It really got hectic.
Talk a little bit about your mom and her cooking.
My mom, she loved to cook Dutch oven, and she loved that. Plus, I think they had a little garden out here too at one time where they'd take care of it. But the deer and that would come in, and the rabbits and different wildlife would come in and start taking their share. So it was a little hard doing that. Plus, the traveling back and forth, to get the provisions. It got a little hectic for them also. The wear and tear. I think they wore out 3 vehicles coming in and out of here, and one of them was mine.
Did you have horses down here?
Yes, I brought one horse. It was a wild horse, and it was broke out of Wyoming. So I brought it down here, and it hung around just like a dog. It was just unfamiliar territory for that horse. But we would go up and down the canyon, along the river.
So when you went up exploring the canyon, what kind of stuff did you find? You were telling me about some of that.
There's the hayfields, the old McPherson hayfields are over the ridge here, along the Florence Creek. I think there was a metal granary at one time there, and some A-frames they used for lifting their hay up on the wagons. I think it's fell over, but I think it's, the remnants are still there. You could still see where the water was taken out of the creek, the head gate. Some of them are still intact. There's some petroglyphs and pictographs up there. Some granaries that's back in there. So it's a good hike, but it's a good feeling to go back in there and to actually do some exploring.
So did you ever go exploring on the other side of the river?
Not too much, not until I ended up with the rafting. Then I started walking around a little bit more on that side. But I never did go too much on that side, only on the reservation side.
So when people came down here from Colorado or wherever, when they were going the hunts, were they interested much in the history of the area? Were they interested in the Fremont, the Ute history, any of that?
Oh yeah, they were more interested in Chandler because of the artifacts and different things, the structures that's there, the log cabin, that chimney that's there. They more or less wanted to know what was there, then what's upriver. So it was always good when somebody asked a question, what was around.
Were they much interested in the Indian stuff, the Ute and the Fremont too?
Yes. But I would not take them too far off the river. Just show them some things that was real close, because there's a lot of things that's further up. So I just would just keep close to the river.
Did your father talk to people about the history? Was he sort of the interpreter for the guests who came?
He kind of would leave it up to my mom. My mom was the one that kind of, kept things going. And I think that's the way, she took care of this place. She took care of the lodge. Dad took care of what was out there, because he had that knowledge.
Just he's the one who interacted more with the tourists than your dad did.
Yeah, yeah. There was times where he would be down here during the winter. He would stay down here in the wintertime, and they would, with Fish and Wildlife, they would trap chucker, tag them, bighorn sheep. He's the one that introduced bighorn sheep here. And the crates used to be still, they flew them in helicopters. So the crates are still sitting up here.
And he helped introduce them in order for the hunts.
Yes, yes, and they would also bring in fish. They brought in fish for Florence Creek. They dropped them out of helicopters and dropped them in. They were a golden trout. As far as I know, there's still some in there.
What kind of wildlife were coming down here when y'all were here?
Some elk, some mule deer, and I did see some, I don't know if anybody would believe me, but I seen some deer down here that were black. They were pure black. I seen 3 of them down here, just right here in front of the lodge when I was down here by myself.
Did you ever any bears come in here?
Oh, a lot of them. A lot of them would come in. The lodge right now has a broken window from a bear crawling through. And on one of the chairs there's a sheet, and there's still a bear print on that sheet where that bear broke in.
They would break in the winter when you weren't here? Or?
Yeah. Yeah, it seemed like as soon as they left, that's when the bears would come. Some vandalism, and that would all happen when nobody was here.
Do you know the names of any people who ran this before your parents?
I think the tribe had, at one time, a guy by the name of Toonie Broom was here. He was caring for the lodge, but I'm not sure if it was still associated with Bottle Hollow. I remember him being here. And I remember one of the old rangers that later on I found out that he used to stay here, and that was Wallace Tabee. I met him when I was young. My brother and I, he was always around. So all the game wardens all hung around together, and we all grew up out here in the mountains, out in the, either in the cedars or in the pinions, back in the canyons or in the Uintah Mountains. But he has photographs. I heard that he took photographs of us when we used to catch a lot of fish.
Wallace Tabee?
Yeah.
So you mentioned Wallace Tabee. He has some history from this place. Do you know, can you talk a little bit about what you know about his history with this place?
Well, what I found out is Wallace, before the road was in here, they would come down through the Florence Creek. And I remember, when I started running the river, I used to walk up through there and just look around, and I actually I had a chance to come down the ridge there at Pole Creek and talk about a steep trail. That's a steep trail. There's a ledge there. I'd say it's probably maybe 5 feet high, sheer drop off on both sides, and they used to jump their horses up that. And it's really dangerous. You could lose a horse real quick, or a mule.
And Tabee was down here originally with whom?
One of the McCooks, Roland McCook's father, I think it was. I don't remember his name. My dad and my uncle Julian, when they were young, they used to trap beaver, and they would float down also on rafts and do their trapping, camp so far, lay their traps out and pick them up the next day and just keep doing it. They got to Steer Ridge with a load of traps and beaver. The river was froze. So they stashed their pelts under some cliffs there, and they walked out towards Sand Wash. Took them 3 days to get out. And that's where my uncle is telling me all these other stuff. While they were walking them 3 days, he was telling me all this other stuff that they found, just
Right.
trying to get out.
What did they find?
A lot of pictographs and some petroglyphs in there. They didn't say much about any granaries or anything, but it was more of a challenge, just trying to get through that brush and over ledges. And
What's your favorite memory of this place?
I think camping. Whenever I was down here, I just camped on the river. It was cooler down there, so I just stayed there. I didn't like the drive down. That was I think the worst. But, and you don't want to get caught down here if it's raining on top. If it's raining on top, you plan on staying an extra 2 days, because the dugways going out, they get pretty slick.
After your parents, or after you stopped running this place, was that the end of it? Or did
For-
anyone else?
For the lodge, it was. The lodge, I turned it back to the tribe, and I think Fish and Wildlife has it now. But I kept on with the river rafting for a couple more years. So so I haven't actually, been associated with the lodge itself for a while.
So there's a move afoot to possibly rehabilitate the lodge. How do you feel about that? Do you think that'd be a good thing?
I told a lot of people it's going to take a gold mine to get this place up and running again. So it's
Well,
going to.
if they had a gold mine, as it were, to get this place up and running, would you feel good about it being up and running?
Only if I had part in it. Because I would be the one that would like to stay down here and take care of it. Then I'd be able to, to probably even start rafting again, bring in tourists, get more people interested, and then talk more about, what's actually, around here. Because people do have a lot of questions. Oh, this washing machine with the wringer, it reminds me of my twin sisters. And Mom always had long braids, had a braid or long hair. So me and my brother used to torture them, and we'd stick their braids inside the rollers until they started screaming too much, and well, it still works. So that's what we used to do, is torture them. They're all grown up now, but it was fun to tease the little girls.